This is People on Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of bringing from across the pond, out of London, Alex Peacock, Leisure Labs. We're going to talk about where technology is going, what's on the frontier, and how to prioritize if you are an operator. What is the most important thing to make an impact in 2023? Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Pete. Great to join you today.
Awesome. So you've been on the technology side of this industry for quite some time. So you want to give your quick background, and then we can dive into what you guys are tackling at Leisure Labs.
Yeah, sounds great. So I've really been in technology my whole career. I got into the fitness sector just over 20 years ago. Actually, my original business, I've founded various different startups throughout that time. But my first business was actually providing audiovisual systems for, at the time, we were working in bars and restaurants. And in around 2000, 2001 in the UK, there was a big influx of new health club brands and new gym brands coming onto the scene. So we started designing audiovisual systems for the new gym and fitness market. From there, I then became involved in a Canadian company actually called Zoom Media. I set up their European business for them in London and scaled that business over 10 years before I moved on to work with a US company called MetPulse, which was a white label mobile app for health club operators. We were working with about 10,000 different clubs around the world. So I ran that business in Europe and then worldwide for about 4 years.
That's amazing. So, as you look at your career, I would say the health club and the fitness industry before the pandemic was known as, slow to embrace new technologies. Are we now in pace with other industries, given some of the investments that have been made on the VC and growth equity side and some of the larger players? And where do you think we're at right now?
I think we still have some work to do. There are sectors like certainly hospitality and particularly retail are doing a lot more in some markets. There's a way to go, and I think when you look at, for the most part, what operators are spending on technology relative to their peers in other sectors, we are still a little bit behind. But in general, there's been a massive shift. Certainly in the last 2 or 3 years, we work with some very large operators that have always been, I guess, ahead of the curve in fitness terms, and now they're really starting to do a lot more in terms of innovation. I think the platform business and the software suppliers have been been a challenge in the past, but I think as you said, we're seeing a lot more investment on the platform side. There's a lot more private equity money coming in to some of the leading software brands, and that's helping them to re-modernize their systems.
So when you think about technology in general, I kind of view it as a weapon. It's a weapon to better run your operation. It's a weapon to maintain relationships with members. I said somewhat as a joke, but I was serious. You can't have artificial intelligence until you have intelligence. So you actually got to gather that data and spend the time to do it. So, as you think about ranking, maybe the top 3 technology priorities that operators should be focused on before they take a quantum leap to something that may be a buzzword, where do you kind of start?
Yeah, so I think you're absolutely right, and I always view technology as an accelerator. So it will accelerate things, but that can be good and that can be bad. So if you're doing things badly, if you have the wrong operational processes in place, technology is going to make that more of a problem than it is today. So you have to get those operational foundations right, and then you can use technology to help you scale faster, help you improve things, help you automate processes. But I think the as an operator, really the key thing to think about is your platforms. So the whole reason why we founded Leisure Labs is because what we could see in the market was this challenge for operators. When you're looking at a technology, you have a choice to make. You can either buy a solution off the shelf, which may not meet your needs, it may not solve all your problems, or you can go out to an agency and have them build something from the ground up. And that's obviously much more expensive, it's more time consuming, it's more risky. And so what we believe is that actually what the industry needs is a combination of the two. And now that the platforms are becoming more flexible, they're becoming more sophisticated, what it does is it allows us to work on developing innovation around platforms. And so what we do is we will work with partners to find out of the box solutions that might solve 60 or 70% of their problems, and then we build the other 30% on top. So what that really allows operators to do is focus their development energy on things that are innovative and things that are actually going to help them differentiate their brand. So what I would say to your point is focus on getting the right systems in place that will solve the foundational needs. And then really from an innovation point of view, you need to make sure that those systems are working well together, they're properly integrated, they're talking to each other. And then it becomes much easier to start putting in the next cool thing. So if it's layering a conversational chatbot or layering in some kind of data science or machine learning or personalization engine on top of that, you've got the right foundations in place.
Gotcha. So from a standpoint of training all of the employees in different departments, how are you seeing that being rolled out? What is the focal point when someone's putting in some new technologies? How's that getting educated and distributed? Do you see that as one of the obstacles in rollouts of new technologies and apps that are, constantly being updated, and there's a communication and marketing flow that should be going alongside with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think change management in general is a huge factor, and it's often an underestimated factor. I think with digital, the great thing about digital is that you can change it very easily. So you can, software can be rewritten, software can be updated, user interfaces can be redesigned, but you've got to think about the operational impact of that. So if you're changing something around, something as simple as class booking, or book a class in an app, if you get that wrong, then you have massive queues outside your studios and people showing up at the wrong time and all of those kind of operational challenges. So just because it's on the face of it, the technology side of it could be easy, that doesn't mean that you should underestimate the sort of potential operational impact.
You made a point earlier about percentage of revenue that is spent on technology in other industries. I started here back in 2000 and 2003. If it was more than $200 per month per club, that was a nosebleed price point, even if it solved thousands of dollars worth of cost and brought in new revenue. So how do you think about educating the market on, here's your return on investment, here's what the results are going to be, and we need to get our fair share of that in order to make sure that we can constantly develop and support this platform as a technology company or an add-on to something you're already doing?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I've heard that many times where it seems like willingness to pay a lot of times for technology is based around the price in the market, or based around this kind of notional, it's $100 a month or $200 a month, and that's my budget for this. But there isn't enough attention given to actually what's the potential return on investment on this. What can we do if we develop this, if we make this better, if we can increase penetration of our premium membership tier by 5%, what difference does that make to the economics of our business? That sort of thing is very well established in things like marketing spend. You're always very focused on ROI on marketing spend, but it's less so the case in technology. And I think that's something that operators, in many cases, are starting to embrace. But there is, this tendency to set a budget based on an arbitrary factor rather than what's this actually going to do to my business.
Sure. As technology becomes way more important in our industry, as we've seen over the last several years, at what point or what size company do you start to have a chief technology officer, chief information officer, a data scientist? How do you advise people on? You might think that your next position is a head of personal training or a regional director. Actually, it might be better spent on managing your technology with someone that you're going to pay six figures and bring someone in from either in the industry or outside the industry that's run this type of play before.
So I think it becomes more a question of there are different ways of tackling that. For sure, you need to have those skills on board one way or another, and it could be that you work with a partner. It could be that your primary platform provider will help you with that. But at some point, it's going to make sense for you to insource those skills yourself. And we work with a lot of companies that you use us as their technology partner, but there are certain parts of the product and the customer experience and how they deliver technology that they need to have. They need to have those skills internally to be able to direct effectively. So I think what I would say is be aware of, if you're a brick and mortar operator, be aware of the fact that that's your core business. You're not a technology company, and sometimes there could be a tendency to kind of get carried away with that. But at the same time, actually, really, if you're operating at scale and you have 20, 30, 100 locations, then you should start to think about, well, we need to dedicate some of our resources to bringing in-house expertise around digital products, digital transformation, and technology.
Great. So whether you can name names or not of specific clients, what are some of the projects that you've worked on that you've said, wow, this actually was better than what we expected?
So we have a couple of different types of clients that we work with. So we work with some larger operators. So brands like David Lloyd in the UK or Crunch in the US, Fitness First, the Gym Group, and so on. And we tend to work with them on particular projects. So we'll do a lot, particularly around mobile app experience, for example. And a lot of that tends to be quite operationally focused. But we also have another cohort of clients who are more startups. So we work with brands where we can help them bring a new product to market. And we've had a couple of particularly interesting areas that we've been working on recently. So one of those is it's a move to earn platform. So it's you do exercise, you elevate your heart rate, and you're rewarded for that. And it's actually a crypto-based reward. So that's been an interesting project working with crypto economics and building digital smart contracts for crypto. So that's been quite a good project on that side. And the other thing that we have been working on, we've been working in a lot, is AI chat. So we recently worked with a client to build out a chat-based personal trainer, which is we've built all of the learning engine. So it uses the chat GPT model. It's a similar experience, but the chat is actually trained to act and behave like a personal trainer. So just building out those components to be able to train AI has been super interesting, and we see other use cases for that. So we're already looking at use cases like FAQs, so we can very easily train the model to know everything about your club. So you can just ask it a question, whether it's how do I cancel my membership, or what time's the next spin class on Tuesday. It will know that information, and it will be able to respond naturally. So I think the way that kind of information is consumed and the way that members expect to be able to interact is, we're seeing a huge shift in that in a very, very short space of time.
That's great. When you look at some of the conferences, I know you just went to FIBO. I saw some of your posts on some other summits you've gone to. How much of this industry is about let's collaborate, get the best technology platforms, and then we'll compete on the marketing side, we'll compete on the programming, we'll compete on the relationships, and basically level up. Al Nashavani is one of our partners. He's got the Fit Tech Summit. And obviously there's a lot of information sharing that goes on, reference checks on companies. And there seems to be a pretty open dialogue on the technology side, where I'm not sure in other industries if they're that open to lifting the industry up, because they view technology as, we're technology companies, we're not really sharing anything because that's what we're competing on. So how do you kind of view that? And maybe longer term, does that change when you've got, big consolidators that are, trying to get an end-to-end system and, have a closed network versus a tech stack that's, more open source and API'd?
I think for the most part, I would agree. The industry is generally very open and very collaborative. Certainly, operators come together and work through problems and talk about problems that they have, and they're interested in how other operators are solving things. So I think, as an industry, we do a really good job of that already. I think there are other specific examples of that. So I'm obviously based here in the UK. We have a quite an active public sector here in the UK. So it would be analogous to kind of the non-profit, the Ys and YMCAs and the JCCs and so on in the US. But we have quite a large public sector. And we work with UK Active, which is the association for the fitness industry in the UK, and we work on a lot of strategic projects where it's about actually helping operators to solve problems together. So we'll even do things like development consortium projects. So we'll get 3 or 4 operators together that are looking to solve a particular problem, and then they'll share the cost of doing that. And I think those are the kinds of things that are really going to help take the industry forward, because fundamentally 80% of problems are shared. So if you can find a way of solving the 80% in the most cost-effective, most scalable way, then it means that you have more money to spend on those things that are really differentiating you as a brand. So you can sort of say, this is the common ground here, and then, this is the 10% that is our secret sauce. And that's the bit that we want to make sure that we own and we protect.
Great. So in closing here, tell us about what type of client. Obviously, you talked about a couple of different size operators and startups, but where's the call go into Leisure Labs? What's the frustration or, the start of a project when you should be top of mind?
So our mission really, as I said, is to provide this sort of alternative to the classic buy or build decision. So if you're looking at a software project, if you're looking at a new app or a new management system or any kind of platform like that, we can come in and we can help identify the best way to solve that problem, which might be with a combination of different platforms connected together. We'll do the integration work. We'll do the kind of build the connective tissue between those platforms, and we'll build the front end experience or customize the front end experience as much as is needed.
That's great. So what do you think 2023, 2024, what are your, top directives to make sure, this industry is focused on?
I think we're starting to see a lot more potential around platforms and what platforms can do. So a lot of the member management type systems that have in the past potentially been closed or been quite constrained in terms of what they do, there has been a huge shift in terms of their opening up. So I think what we'll see is a trend from closed platforms and one solution that tries to solve everything in an operator's tech stack to much more point solutions and much more single pieces of technology that will really solve a problem. And then I
That's
think
great.
from a technology point of view, everyone's talking about chat and AI and how that can apply. We're starting to see real life use cases now. So I think what's really shifted in the last sort of 6 months is people have been talking about AI and machine learning for a long time, but they haven't really seen it in practice in at scale. So now everybody's starting to play with ChatGPT or whatever the latest AI tool is, and people are starting to really see how they can actually start to apply that to their businesses in real life.
There was a really interesting interview with Elon Musk on the potential threats of AI. I think it's more going to be an opportunity for our industry than anything else. But I've been using it to do research and do some slides, and it's pretty fascinating what that capability is and how quickly it ports out information to you in an elegant way.
Yeah, it's incredible how fast that technology has evolved, and it will continue to get faster and faster. And I think one of the biggest challenges that we have to navigate is actually making clear what is human and what is not human, because it's becoming harder to tell. And so there are all of the sort of the moral and practical issues around you're having a conversation with somebody. Is it actually a person, or is it an AI? And I think that's going to be a lot of sort of mindset shift and change management needed.
Yeah. So in closing, you've got any good business quotes or quotes that you live by, or
So
Alexiisms?
I'm a proponent of if you've come across David Allen wrote a book called Getting Things Done. He has a quote in there that I really like, which is, "You can do anything, but not everything." And I think that's a good one, just in terms of one of the hardest parts of scaling a business is figuring out what is an opportunity and what is a distraction. And so that whole way of prioritization is something that I definitely hold dear.
Great. Well, thanks for coming on. Look forward to meeting up in person at the next event. And we're going to try and get over to the UK, Europe, and maybe Singapore. So thanks for your contributions to the industry, getting people on the right track, convincing them that technology is a secret weapon that needs to be part of the toolkit and the nervous system of their clubs, and not an afterthought for a couple hundred a month.
Thanks very much for having me. It's been great chatting today, Pete.
Awesome. All right, great. Have a good day, buddy.